A silent storm. The clinking of dishes echoed in the modest kitchen as Thomas Tom Baker, his calloused hands submerged in soapy water, meticulously cleaned each plate. Every piece emerged spotless, a testament to his unwavering attention to detail. At his feet, Buster, his old dog, snored softly, while the gentle purr of his wife, Eleanor, emanated from the living room. "Honey, did you remember to call the plumber about the bathroom sink?" Eleanor's voice held an unusual inflection, something Tom couldn't quite place. "Already handled it," Tom replied, drying his hands. "He'll be here tomorrow morning." Eleanor appeared in the doorway, her petite frame leaning against the wooden frame. Her auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders, and her designer blouse likely cost more than Tom's entire wardrobe. "Oh, I thought you were working tomorrow." "Took the morning off, figured I'd be here when he arrived." Tom observed her closely, noting the subtle tension around her eyes. "You shouldn't have done that. I could have managed," she said, her fingers drumming against her thigh. "I'm working from home tomorrow anyway." Tom shrugged, maintaining his facade of the contented, simple builder. "No big deal. Besides, you know how these guys can inflate the price if they think no one's paying attention." The weight of his hidden life pressed against his chest. 8 years as a Marine sniper had taught him not only to shoot, but also to read people, to discern the slightest details that betrayed their true thoughts. 5 years in the CIA, which followed, had only sharpened those skills. "Speaking of work," Eleanor continued, "Trevor's been really pushing us all lately. He's expecting record sales this quarter." She walked to the refrigerator, retrieving a bottle of wine. Tom continued drying another plate, his movements deliberate. Trevor. The name alone made his jaw clench. Eleanor's boss at the real estate agency had been appearing more frequently in their conversations lately. "Is that right?" Tom kept his tone neutral. "Thought you said he was a pain in the backside last month." Eleanor poured herself a generous glass of red wine. "Oh, he can be, but he knows what he's doing. The commission structure he's implementing could really change things for us." "Us." Tom remembered a time when that word had meant something different. When they met at that barbecue 3 years ago, Eleanor was drawn to his stability, his quiet strength. He was captivated by her energy, her ambition. Now those same ambitions carried a different weight. "Want a glass?" Eleanor offered, raising the bottle. Tom shook his head. "Early start tomorrow." He needed his senses sharp, his mind clear. The conversation tapered off as Eleanor retreated to the living room, her phone already in hand. Tom heard the soft tap of her fingers on the screen, followed by the quiet click of the bedroom door. He finished the dishes, each movement measured and controlled. The kitchen radio played softly, muffling any sounds from the bedroom, but Tom didn't need to hear. His training had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now they were screaming. Moving silently, Tom made his way to the living room. His old phone lay innocently on the coffee table, but it was modified with specialized listening equipment he had installed weeks ago. A gnawing feeling in his gut had led him to take precautions, to prepare for something he desperately didn't want to believe. He inserted his earpiece, and Eleanor's voice came through clearly, though low. "Honey, that idiot suspects nothing." Her words sliced through him like a blade. "Send your assassins tomorrow, make it look like a robbery gone wrong." Tom's blood ran cold. Trevor's voice responded, smooth and confident. "Don't worry, beautiful. By this time tomorrow, you'll be a grieving widow, and we can finally be together truly. Just make sure it's clean," Eleanor continued. "I don't want any complications. My boys are professionals. They'll make it quick, and the insurance payout will suit us just fine. You've done well, baby. Just keep playing your part for one more night." Tom removed his earpiece, his face a mask of cold fury. The love he had felt for Eleanor crystallized into something harder, darker. He pulled out his secure phone, the one Eleanor knew nothing about, and typed a message to a number he hadn't used in months. "Need equipment tomorrow. Life insurance scenario." The reply came swiftly. "Understood. Usual drop. 0600. Tom deleted the messages and returned the phone to his pocket. He walked back into the kitchen, where Buster raised his head questioningly. "Come on, boy," Tom whispered, scratching him behind the ears. Let's get some fresh air." The dog followed him into the backyard. Tom entered his shed, flipping on a dim light above his workbench. Beneath a false panel lay the tools of his former trade. He ran his fingers over the case of his modified M486 sniper rifle. Nearby lay various electronic surveillance devices, communication jammers, and other specialized equipment he had kept for just in case. "Are you all right, honey?" Eleanor's voice floated from the back door. "It's getting late." Tom emerged from the shed, his face showing only mild contentment. "Just checking my tools for tomorrow's project." The lie came easily, naturally. Eleanor smiled, and Tom marveled at how genuine it seemed. "Don't stay up too late. You need your rest." "Of course, dear." Tom watched her disappear back into the house, his mind already formulating tomorrow's operations. She wanted a grieving widow. He would give her something entirely different. The night air carried the scent of jasmine from Eleanor's garden. Tom remembered planting those bushes with her last spring, how she had laughed when he got dirt on his nose. The memory now stirred no emotion. Instead, there was a cold, calculating focus he hadn't felt since his last CIA operation. Tomorrow, Eleanor and Trevor would learn what it meant to betray a man like him. Not the builder they thought they knew, but the predator they had foolishly awakened. Chapter 2: A Web of Deceit. The small shed behind Tom's house had always been his sanctuary, but today it transformed into his operational hub. The scent of metal and gun oil hung in the air, familiar aromas that stirred memories of past missions. He retrieved his old sniper rifle, its weight a comforting presence in his hands as he began the meticulous cleaning process. "Remember this, Buster?" Tom muttered to the dog, who watched him from a corner. "Been a while since we played civilian." His thoughts drifted back to his first encounter with Eleanor. The memory was vivid and sharp, despite his attempts to focus on the task at hand. 3 years ago, a summer barbecue was in full swing, the air filled with laughter and the smell of grilled meat. Tom stood away from the crowd, sipping a beer when she approached. "You look like you're plotting an escape route," Eleanor said, her smile bright and captivating. Tom chuckled despite himself. "Habit. Though now I'm just a builder." "Just?" She raised an eyebrow. "There's nothing just about building something that lasts." Her hand brushed his forearm, and the touch sent an unexpected jolt through his body. "I'm Eleanor. I sell what you build." Tom Baker. He had studied her then, noting the designer watch, the perfectly manicured nails, the hungry look in her eyes that he had mistaken for ambition rather than greed. The present. Tom set aside the cleaned rifle and walked to a locked cabinet in the corner. Inside were various electronic devices, each meticulously maintained. He selected several motion sensors and a sophisticated communication jammer. "Should have seen it sooner, boy," he told Buster, who wagged his tail in response. All the signs were there. He pulled out his secure phone again and dialed a number. "Mateo here." The voice on the other end was brisk, despite the late hour. "It's Baker. Need your expertise tomorrow afternoon, the kind that leaves no traces." A low whistle came through the speaker. "Must be serious if you're calling on this line. What's the scenario?" "Wife and her lover hired hitmen. Need to make sure their digital footprint vanishes years from now when I'm done." Mateo was silent. "Eleanor, the real estate agent?" "The very same." Tom's voice remained even, though his grip on the phone tightened. "Need everything. Their communications, financial transactions, the whole 9 yards. And then I need it all to disappear at the opportune moment." "Consider it done. You're handling the physical side?" "Already in motion. Meet me at Joey's Diner tomorrow at 1400. Details will follow there." Ending the call, Tom returned to his preparations. He pulled out several more cases, each containing equipment that would turn his suburban home into a kill zone. Not for him, but for the hitmen who thought they were walking into an easy score. As he worked, his mind replayed Eleanor's recent behavior, the late-night phone calls she thought he didn't hear, the subtle changes in her routine, the way she started dressing more expensively, claiming it was necessary for her work image. Tom had allowed her to believe he noticed nothing, playing the part of the trusting husband while his suspicions mounted. He had started documenting everything weeks ago, his training kicking in as patterns emerged, frequent meetings with Trevor, a nervous energy when Tom unexpectedly came home, careful questions about his schedule. He pulled out a small notepad and began to write, his handwriting precise and clear. Security measures, motion sensors on all entry points, communication jammer for target isolation, surveillance cameras with remote access, backup power for all systems, remote lockdown protocols, equipment required, combat knife, 2 zip ties, taser, smoke grenades, non-lethal first aid interrogation kit. The list went on, each item selected with a specific purpose. Tom wasn't just planning to survive tomorrow, he was planning to dismantle an entire operation. He checked his watch, 0200. Plenty of time to finish his preparations and still maintain his disguise. Eleanor would be expecting him in bed soon, playing the role of the unsuspecting husband one last time. Tom put away his equipment, leaving everything ready for quick deployment tomorrow. As he stood, his hand brushed against an old photograph tucked away in one of the cases. It was him in his marine dress blues, receiving an award. The man in that photo was straightforward, brutal when necessary, untainted by civilian softness. "Time to remember who you are," he muttered, tucking the photo away. Buster followed him as he locked the shed and headed back to the house. Through the kitchen window, he could see Eleanor in her nightgown, making herself a cup of tea. Her movements were relaxed, confident. She had no idea her meticulously crafted plan was about to unravel. Tom entered through the back door, maintaining his usual demeanor. "Sorry, lost track of time out there." Eleanor turned, her smile perfectly practiced. "I made you some tea. Chamomile helps you sleep." "Thanks, honey." He took the cup, not drinking. "Are you heading to bed soon?" "In a minute. Just need to check one last email from Trevor about tomorrow's showings." Tom nodded, watching her tap at her phone. Every gesture, every casual lie filed away in his mind. Tomorrow she would learn the price of betrayal. Tonight he would play his part for the last time. He set the untouched tea aside when she wasn't looking and headed upstairs. In their bedroom, he went through his usual routine, all the while his mind calculating angles, timing, and contingencies. The hitmen would come, expecting easy prey. Instead, they would find a predator, waiting on familiar hunting grounds. When he finally lay down, Eleanor curled up beside him as she always did. Tom allowed himself one last thought of what might have been. Then he locked those feelings away, replacing them with the cold focus he would need tomorrow. The woman beside him was no longer his wife. She was just another target in his sights. Chapter 3. The Game Begins. The construction site hummed with activity as Tom worked alongside his crew, his movements precise and controlled despite the weight of the steel beam they were installing. Sweat trickled down his back, but his mind remained sharp, focused on the multiple threads of his plan. "Baker," his foreman shouted. "Got a minute?" Tom secured his end of the beam and walked over, wiping his hands on his work pants. "What's up, Mike?" "Your wife called earlier, said she'd been trying to reach you." Mike's expression was concerned. "Everything all right?" "Phone's been acting up," Tom lied easily. "I'll connect with her at lunch." He knew exactly why Eleanor was calling. She wanted to confirm his schedule to ensure he would be home at the opportune time for her planned robbery. The thought of it clenched his jaw, but his face remained neutral. Precisely at 1400, Tom pulled into the parking lot of Joey's Diner. The small establishment sat on the outskirts of town, its faded facade making it unremarkable. Perfect for meetings that needed to remain discreet. Mateo was already inside, occupying a booth in the far corner. The tech specialist looked exactly as Tom remembered him. Lean, restless energy barely contained beneath a veneer of casual indifference. "You look," Mateo observed as Tom slid into the booth. "Just drive." Tom produced a USB stick and placed it on the table. "I need everything on this analyzed and ready by tonight. Focus on financial transactions between Trevor Morrison and any suspicious offshore accounts." Mateo picked up the USB, his fingers tracing its surface. "You know this is going to cost extra, right? Rush job, high-risk leverage." Money's not an issue. Tom's voice was flat. Trevor's accounts will more than cover it. A waitress approached, but one look at Tom's expression made her retreat without taking their order. Tell me what you've got so far, Mateo said, leaning forward. Tom pulled out his phone, showing Mateo a series of surveillance photos. Trevor's been meeting these three men regularly over the past month. I need their communications monitored, their movements tracked. When everything goes down, I want them completely isolated. My God, Tom. Mateo let out a low whistle. You're not just looking to survive, are you? You're going to dismantle them. They made their choice. A note in Tom's voice made Mateo shift uncomfortably. Now they reap the consequences. The next hour passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Tom returned to work briefly, maintaining his disguise, then ostentatiously left early, citing a headache. His crew wished him well, none of them suspecting their quiet, reliable colleague was preparing for war. At home, Tom moved with practiced efficiency. He placed motion sensors at strategic points throughout the house, each connected to a central monitoring system in his shed. Cameras were next, hidden in plain sight. One in a smoke detector, another in a wall clock, three more disguised as electrical outlets. Phone, Buster, Eleanor. Hi, honey. Her voice was filled with concern. Heard you weren't feeling well? Want me to pick up some soup on the way home? That would be great, he replied, adding the right amount of discomfort to his voice. Might turn in early tonight. Poor dear. I'll take care of you. The call ended and Tom allowed himself a grim smile. She truly thought she had him completely fooled. His phone vibrated again, this time a message from Mateo. Equipment ready. Extra surprises in the package. Don't open the red case until needed. Tom retrieved the package from a predetermined drop-off point, a locker at a local gym. Inside, he found everything he had ordered, plus a few additions that made his eyebrow raise. Mateo had outdone himself. The red case contained a sophisticated audio monitoring system, far more advanced than what Tom had initially requested. He carried it all to his truck, his movements unhurried and casual despite the deadly cargo. Back at home, Tom continued his preparations. He installed the new equipment with practiced ease, each piece adding another layer to his trap. The house Eleanor considered his tomb was transforming into his fortress. His phone vibrated with another message from Eleanor. Picking up soup. Anything else needed? Just you, he replied, the lie bitter on his tongue. Awaiting Eleanor's return, Tom made a final check of his preparations. The motion sensors were active, their silent signals feeding back to his modified phone. The cameras were streaming directly to both his shed monitoring system and a secure cloud server Mateo had set up. The jammers were in place, ready to create a dead zone at his command. The sound of Eleanor's car pulling into the driveway brought him to attention. Tom quickly moved to the couch, arranging himself to appear suitably unwell. Honey, I'm home, Eleanor called out, her heels clicking on the floor. I brought you your favorite chicken soup. Tom watched her through half-closed eyes as she bustled around the kitchen, playing the role of the caring wife perfectly. Her phone vibrated and she checked it with what she thought was subtle discretion. Trevor's being unbearable again, she sighed, setting down a bowl of soup. He wants updated listings by tomorrow morning. Can't that wait? Tom asked, noticing how she tensed slightly at the question. You've been working too hard lately. Eleanor's laugh was practiced, perfect. That's sweet, but you know how it is in real estate, always on call. She kissed his forehead. Why don't you eat your soup and rest? I'll handle some emails in the study. Tom deliberately ate his soup slowly while Eleanor disappeared into the study. Through his phone, he saw her furiously typing on her laptop, no doubt coordinating tomorrow's attack with Trevor. The hours crawled by. Tom maintained his sick persona, occasionally coughing or shifting uncomfortably on the couch. Eleanor played her part equally well, checking on him periodically with convincing concern. I think I'll head to bed early, Tom announced around 9, his voice purposely hoarse. Don't stay up too late. I won't, Eleanor promised. Just need to finish these emails. In their bedroom, Tom lay awake, listening to Eleanor's movements downstairs. Through his earpiece, he heard her conversation with Trevor. "Everything's set," she whispered. "He's sick, so he'll be sleeping soundly tomorrow. Your boys know what to do." "It's all arranged, honey," Trevor's smooth voice replied. "By this time tomorrow, you'll be a rich widow. The insurance company won't suspect a thing." Tom closed his eyes, not for sleep, but for focus. He reviewed his plan one last time, checking for any weaknesses or oversights. Everything was in place. Tomorrow, Eleanor and Trevor would learn exactly who they were dealing with. The bed dipped as Eleanor finally joined him. She snuggled close, her betrayal made all the more bitter by the intimacy of the gesture. "Feeling better?" she whispered. "Getting there," he mumbled, playing his part for the final time. As Eleanor's breathing evened out in sleep, Tom remained alert. In his mind, he was no longer Thomas Baker, loving husband and builder. He was the hunter he had been trained to be, the predator who had survived countless missions behind enemy lines. Tomorrow would bring violence and revelations. Tonight he waited, patient and deadly, like a viper in Eleanor's carefully tended garden. She and Trevor thought they were orchestrating his end. Instead, they were setting up their own collapse. The night stretched on, marked only by Eleanor's peaceful breathing and the occasional rustle as she shifted in her sleep. Tom remained motionless, conserving his energy, his mind sharp and focused on the coming conflict. They wanted a grieving widow and a clean insurance payout. They would get neither. Chapter 4. The bait is laid. Tom moved through his morning routine, his muscles coiled with anticipation beneath his casual demeanor. The kitchen radio played softly as he cooked breakfast, bacon sizzling in the pan, while Eleanor sipped her coffee. "You're up early for someone who's feeling under the weather," Eleanor observed, her manicured nails tapping on her phone screen. "Didn't sleep well," Tom replied, placing a plate of scrambled eggs and bacon in front of her. "Figured I might as well make breakfast." Eleanor's phone vibrated. She glanced at it, trying to conceal her eagerness. "Trevor's really pushing these morning showings. I need to head out soon." "Be careful out there," Tom said, watching her. "Heard there have been some break-ins in the neighborhood." Eleanor froze for a fraction of a second, her hand tightening on her purse strap. "Oh, I hadn't heard about that." "Just something Mike mentioned at work." Tom leaned in to kiss her cheek, noticing how she tensed slightly at his touch. "Have a good day, dear." The moment Eleanor's car disappeared around the corner, Tom's gentle expression hardened into steel. He activated the surveillance system, watching through his phone as Eleanor pulled into a parking lot 2 blocks away. She made a call. "It's done," her voice came through clearly. "He's home, sick, completely unsuspecting. Your boys can go in when they're ready." "Excellent, baby," Trevor's smooth voice responded. "The team will be there in 20 minutes. Remember to act surprised when they call you. The grieving widow needs to be convincing." "Don't you worry about me," Eleanor chuckled. "I've been practicing my tears in the mirror." Tom muted the audio, his jaw clenched. He headed to his shed where his equipment lay ready. Listening devices were active throughout the house. Motion sensors were armed at entry points. He pulled up the feed from the street camera he had installed last week, watching as a black SUV made its third pass of the morning. His phone vibrated. "Mateo," the voice came through. "They're running a pretty basic comm setup. Standard encrypted channels, nothing fancy. Your jammer will cut them right off." "Good. Keep tracking Trevor's phone. I want to know the moment he realizes something's wrong." "Already on it." "But Tom, these guys they're not amateurs. I pulled their files. Ex-military, dishonorable discharges. They've done this before." Tom's lips curved into a cold smirk. "Good. Then they should appreciate what's coming." He watched through the cameras as the SUV finally pulled to a stop. 3 men emerged. The leader, tattooed and massive, held himself with military precision. The other 2, leaner but no less dangerous, moved with practiced coordination. "Police, open up!" The leader's voice boomed through the front door, followed by a powerful kick that splintered the wood. Tom activated the jammers. On the screen, he saw the leader tap his earpiece in confusion. The man tried his phone. Nothing but static. "Comms are out," the leader snarled. Stick to the plan. Find him. Make it quick. The men fanned out, weapons drawn. Tom watched as they moved through his house, their confidence growing as they found each room empty. He activated the first trap, a high-frequency sonic pulse that caused the leader to stumble, clutching his head. "What the hell was that?" one of the others demanded. "Keep moving," the leader ordered, shaking off the disorientation. "He's got to be in here somewhere." Tom toggled between camera views, watching their search. They were good, checking corners, moving, but they were fighting blind while he saw everything. The leader reached the kitchen, gesturing for his men to check upstairs. Perfect. Tom activated the smart locks, sealing the heavy reinforced doors he had installed weeks ago. The sounds of the doors slamming shut made all three men jump. "We're locked in," one of the men upstairs shouted. "The doors won't budge." The leader pulled out his phone again, desperation creeping into his movements. "Something's wrong, this isn't—" His words died as Tom killed the lights, plunging the house into darkness. Emergency lighting clicked on, bathing everything in a dim red glow. "Forget the plan," the leader roared. "Find him and finish this." Tom moved silently through his custom-built passages behind the walls, tracking the men's infrared signatures through his tactical display. The leader was now alone in the kitchen, waving his weapon around. The sonic emitter pulsed again, this time at a higher frequency. The leader dropped to one knee, disoriented. Tom emerged from a hidden panel, his movements swift and brutal. The leader never saw the taser coming. Upstairs, the other two men heard their leader's muffled groan. "Marcus, you all right down there?" Silence answered. Tom dragged the unconscious leader into the basement, securing him with zip ties. One down, two to go. The remaining men moved back to back, their training asserting itself through their fear. Tom activated another set of lights, creating moving shadows that drew their attention. "This is wrong," one whispered. "We're being hunted." "Shut up! Just find him!" Tom shifted to his next position, watching them through the walls. Their heart rates were elevated, clearly displayed on his thermal imaging. Fear was making them sloppy. He played a recording of footsteps, drawing them toward the master bedroom. When they entered, he locked the door behind them. "It's a trap!" the ventilation system hissed, releasing a mild sedative gas. The men fired blindly, their shots harmlessly embedding themselves in the reinforced walls. Within minutes, they slumped to the floor. Tom waited for the gas to clear, then entered, wearing a tactical mask. He subdued both men, dragging them one by one to join their leader in the basement. In his shed, a monitor showed Eleanor arriving at her first showing of the day. Her phone rang. "Trevor, the team isn't responding." There was tension in his voice. "What do you mean something's wrong?" Eleanor's facade cracked slightly. "They're professionals, you said." "I'm heading over there myself." "No." Eleanor's voice rose. "Stick to the plan. They'll call when it's done." Tom smiled, checking the basement feed. His three guests were beginning to stir. Time for the next phase. He activated the cameras and audio system in the basement. The leader groaned, trying to focus his eyes in the dim light. "Welcome back," Tom's voice echoed through hidden speakers. "Let's talk about Trevor Morrison, shall we?" Chapter 5. The harvest begins. The air in the basement hung thick with an almost palpable dread. Tom stood before his captives, a silent, imposing figure. Their leader, Marcus, tugged futilely at his restraints, while his cohorts exchanged nervous, darting glances. "You picked the wrong house." Tom's voice cut through the tension, cold and authoritative, echoing the hardened tones of his Marine days. "The wrong target, the wrong job." "Look, man," Marcus began, his tough guy facade cracking. "This is just business, nothing personal." Tom's fist connected with Marcus's jaw, a brutal punctuation that silenced him mid-sentence. "Trying to kill me for my wife and her lover feels very personal to me." The two other men visibly flinched at this revelation. Tom noted their reaction, a flicker of something akin to satisfaction in his eyes. "Ah, they didn't tell you that, did they? Just said it was a simple hit disguised as a robbery?" Tom slowly circled them, his gaze piercing. Let me guess, Trevor promised each of you, how much? 50,000? 100. One of the men, younger than the others, swallowed hard. How did you— Shut up, Dave, Marcus snarled, blood trickling from his split lip. Dave's right to be worried, Tom said, stopping directly in front of them. Because right now Trevor knows something's gone wrong. He's probably calling for backup, planning to vanish before everything goes to hell. He leaned closer to Marcus. But we both know he doesn't pay for failed jobs, do we? Marcus's face darkened, a flicker of genuine fear in his eyes. You don't know Trevor. I know he's hired you before, Tom interrupted, his voice laced with venom. 3 jobs in the past year, all successful, until now. Tom pulled out his phone, displaying documents on the screen. I know about the Newman affair, the Richardson case, the Marina accident. The third man, silent until now, cursed under his breath. Here's what's going to happen next, Tom continued, his voice dropping to a chilling whisper. Trevor's coming for you, and when he comes, he's going to find exactly what I want him to find. But first, he picked up a camera. You're going to help me send him a message. We're not saying anything, Marcus growled, defiance warring with dread. Tom's laugh was devoid of humor, a cold, sharp sound. You misunderstand. You don't need to say anything. Your faces will say it all. He activated the camera, streaming the feed directly to Trevor's office computer via Mateo's backdoor access. On the screen, 3 professional killers appeared, battered, bound, and with fear etched undeniably into their eyes. Trevor, I know you're watching, Tom addressed the camera, his voice a low, dangerous rumble. You thought you were buying my death. Instead, you've purchased front-row seats to your own annihilation. Keep watching. He turned back to his captives. And now, about those other jobs. Hours bled into one another as Tom methodically dismantled their resistance. He didn't need torture or extreme violence. He possessed information, leverage, and the patience of a seasoned interrogator. Dave broke first, spilling details of Trevor's intricate operations. The second man, Tony, followed soon after, his bravado crumbling. Marcus held out the longest, but even he surrendered when Tom played recordings of Trevor already working to pin everything on them. That snake, Marcus spat, fury mixing with betrayal. We did everything he asked, and he's already selling us out. He's calling his contacts in the police department, Tom confirmed, his voice calm amidst their rising panic, painting you as rogue operatives who tried to blackmail him. By tomorrow, you'll be his scapegoats. What do you want from us? Tony asked, his voice thick with defeat. Everything. Names, dates, details. Every deal Trevor ordered, every bribe, every contact. Tom held up a digital recorder. Consider this your insurance policy. As they spoke, Tom's phone buzzed with messages from Mateo. Trevor's in a panic. Called 6 different numbers in the last hour. Tried to access his offshore accounts. Already locked them down. He's making mistakes. Keep watching. Phase 2 begins soon, Tom texted back. To his captives, he said, get comfortable, because we're about to put on a show that will tear Trevor's world apart. He set up additional cameras, positioning them with meticulous precision. Your confessions are about to go live, but first let's make sure Trevor and Eleonora understand exactly what they've done. Tom brought up surveillance footage from his own home on a monitor. Eleonora had returned, pacing nervously in the living room, a phone pressed to her ear. Trevor isn't answering, she was saying to someone, her voice laced with anxiety. Something's wrong. The team should have called hours ago. Tom smiled coldly. Watch, he instructed his prisoners. He pressed a button and Eleonora's phone rang. Hello? Her voice trembled slightly. Check your email, Tom said, his voice distorted by a modulator. Eleonora rushed to her laptop. The color drained from her face as she opened a file, a video of her conversation with Trevor about the hit, followed by a chilling recording of her rehearsing the role of a grieving widow in front of her bathroom mirror. Who is this? What do you want? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Justice, Tom replied. Tell Trevor to check his company website in 1 hour. The truth is coming out. He ended the call, turning back to his prisoners. And now, gentlemen, you will help me dismantle Trevor Morrison's entire world. Chapter 6. The Unveiling. The morning sun had barely begun its ascent when Tom initiated the final phase of his meticulous plan. In the chilling confines of the basement, his three captives sat before a camera, their chilling confessions recorded and poised for broadcast. Upstairs, Eleonora frantically tried to reach Trevor, blissfully unaware that her husband, from the depths of his grim sanctuary, was orchestrating their catastrophic downfall. "It's time," Tom declared, his gaze sweeping across his monitors. Trevor's company website was experiencing an unprecedented surge in traffic. Mateo's handiwork, ensuring maximum exposure. "Ready for your moment of infamy?" Marcus glared but remained silent, his defiance now a mere flicker. Dave and Tony looked resigned, their spirits utterly broken. Tom activated the broadcast, a digital invasion that hijacked Trevor's corporate website. The slick professional homepage dissolved, replaced by a live feed from the basement's grim depths. "Ladies and gentlemen," Tom began, his voice still disguised by the modulator, "what you are about to witness is the truth behind Trevor Morrison's so-called empire. These men were hired to commit murder this very morning. Instead, they will now tell you of every other crime they've committed for Mr. Morrison." He unleashed the recordings, hours of painstaking, detailed confessions of mortgage fraud, ruthless intimidation, and crimes far more heinous. The viewer count skyrocketed, propelled by Mateo's relentless dissemination of the broadcast across every conceivable social media platform. Tom's phone buzzed with an incoming call. It was Trevor. "Eleonora, what in God's name is happening?" Trevor's once smooth, controlled voice was now raw with desperate panic. "The office is in chaos. Clients are calling. The board of directors is demanding answers." "I don't know." Eleonora's panic was now genuinely palpable, her composure shattering. "He knows, Trevor. Whoever this is, they know everything." "Just shut. I'm coming. Don't talk to anyone." Tom switched to the street cameras, watching Trevor's sleek Mercedes roar toward the house, a black blur of frantic desperation. "Excellent," he said to his prisoners, a grim satisfaction in his voice. "Your boss is on his way. Let's make sure he gets a proper welcome." He initiated the next video sequence, surveillance footage showing Trevor meeting with the hit team, exchanging envelopes of cash, discussing problems that needed to be handled. The basement door burst open, and Tom melted back into the shadows as Trevor's heavy footsteps thundered down the stairs. "What the hell is going on here? Marcus? Dave?" Trevor froze at the sight of his bound and beaten men, his eyes widening in disbelief and dawning horror. "Who?" "Hello, Trevor." Tom stepped out of the shadows, his voice now natural, watching as recognition, then stark terror, flooded Trevor's face. "Surprised to see the man you tried to murder?" Tom advanced, savoring Trevor's instinctive, desperate backward step. "Did you truly think I was just some simple builder?" Trevor's hand instinctively darted toward his jacket. Tom slammed him against the wall before he could even grasp the pistol. 8 years as a Marine sniper," Tom stated casually, disarming Trevor with practiced lethal ease. 5 years with the CIA, but you didn't do your homework, did you? Too busy seducing my wife and planning my assassination." "Listen," Trevor's voice turned pleading, his arrogance completely gone. "We can work something out. Money. I can pay." "I don't want your money." Tom bound Trevor's hands with zip ties, his voice ice cold. "I want your utter destruction. And you know what? It's already happening." He spun Trevor around, forcing him to face the monitors displaying his company website. Comments and shares exploding, news vans converging on the office building. "No!" Trevor whispered, a strangled cry of despair. "No, no, no!" "Yes." Tom positioned him squarely in front of the camera. "Your turn for a confession." "I won't." "You will. Because if you don't, these three will tell the police about all your other projects, including the ones your family knows nothing about." Trevor's resistance crumbled as Tom laid out the damning evidence. Years of illicit dealings, all meticulously documented and ready for public consumption. You can confess now, cut a deal later, perhaps see daylight again in about 20 years, Tom offered, his voice devoid of emotion. Or stay silent and I'll unleash everything. Your choice. Trevor spoke. He confessed to the murder plot, to Eleonora's chilling involvement, to years of corruption and criminality. The viewer count reached 6 figures as he named his business partners, the corrupt officials, the other conspirators in his dark empire. When the police finally arrived, drawn by anonymous calls about a disturbance, they discovered a treasure trove of evidence. 4 bound men in the basement, recordings of a multitude of crimes, a dead man switch, ensuring everything would be released if anyone tried to cover it up. Tom met them at the door, playing the role of the shocked homeowner who had defended himself against intruders. He gave his statement, provided the surveillance footage of the break-in, and declined to press charges himself. The other evidence was more than sufficient. Eleonora arrived as the police were leading Trevor and his men away. She stood on the front lawn, watching her meticulously constructed future crumble before her eyes. "Mrs. Baker," an officer approached her. "We have some questions about your involvement with Mr. Morrison." Tom slipped away before she could notice him, vanishing into the growing crowd of reporters. In his pocket, he carried a simple note. "I know, and you will see." He drove to Mateo's where they would monitor the aftermath of their meticulously crafted plan. Through the screens, they watched as Trevor's perfectly built world began its catastrophic collapse. "Look at this," Mateo said, pointing to one of his monitors. "Trevor's company stock is in freefall. Board members are calling emergency meetings. His family is already trying to distance themselves." Tom nodded, watching the chaos unfold with a cold, almost surgical detachment. "And Eleonora? The police are questioning her now." Mateo pulled up a video feed from the police station. "She's trying to play the innocent victim, but those recordings we released aren't leaving her much room to maneuver." Through the screen, they could see Eleonora losing her composure as detectives played her chilling conversations with Trevor. Her designer clothes and impeccable makeup could not hide her rapidly growing desperation. "I want to create a new identity," Tom said, his voice firm, resolute. "Something that will allow me to disappear when all of this is over." Mateo raised an eyebrow. "You're not staying to watch them fall?" "I set the trap. Now I just need to make sure they can't crawl out of it." Tom pulled out a USB drive. "Everything's here. Full recordings of Trevor's operations, Eleonora's involvement, all of it. Release it to the media if anything happens to me." "Do you really think they can try something? Trevor has connections we don't know about." "Better to be ready." Tom checked his watch. "Keep tracking everything. I have one last stop to make." He drove back to his house, now eerily quiet after the morning's tumultuous events. Police tape still marked the shattered front door. Inside, the rooms where his traps had been sprung were marked with evidence markers. Tom walked through the house, collecting specific items: photographs, documents, records that would ensure Trevor and Eleonora's convictions. He took nothing personal, nothing that would hint at sentimentality. His phone vibrated with news alerts. Real estate mogul Trevor Morrison arrested in murder-for-hire plot. Prominent real estate agent Eleonora Baker implicated in husband's attempted murder. Morrison family empire faces investigation after shocking revelations. The plan had worked perfectly. Trevor's confession had opened the floodgates of investigation. His business partners scrambled for self-preservation, offering up ever more evidence of his crimes. Eleonora's carefully crafted image as a successful real estate agent was in tatters. Her clients and colleagues learned of her chilling betrayal. Tom walked through the house one last time, ensuring he had left nothing to chance. In the bedroom, he placed Eleonora's note on her pillow. "I know, and you will see." Simple words that would haunt her as she comprehended the full extent of her husband's capabilities. Back at Mateo's, they continued to track the unfolding situation. Trevor had been denied bail, deemed a flight risk. Eleonora was under house arrest, her assets frozen pending investigation. "What now?" Mateo asked as evening descended. "Now we wait," Tom replied. his gaze fixed on the screens. Let them stew in their cells tonight, wondering what tomorrow will bring. Let them realize that their perfect plan didn't just fail, it obliterated everything they had. The news channels broadcast continuous coverage of the scandal. Trevor's face, once proudly emblazoned on real estate advertisements, now appeared in police mugshots. Eleonora's booking photo showed her mascara-streaked face, an expression of mingled fear and disbelief. "You know," Matteo said quietly, "they'll eventually figure out it was you, that their simple builder husband was someone entirely different." "By then it won't matter." Tom stood up, stretching his weary muscles. "I'll be gone, and they'll have years in prison to contemplate their choices." The screens continued to flicker with updates. New arrests, fresh revelations, more destruction of Trevor's criminal empire. Tom watched it all with a cold satisfaction, knowing that this was only the end of the second act. The true punishment, the utter devastation of their lives, was yet to unfold. But that would be another chapter. For now, he had achieved what he sought, turning their trap against them, exposing their crimes, and setting in motion the events that would ensure their ultimate downfall. "I need to get some sleep," he told Matteo. "Tomorrow will be a busy day." Chapter 7. Trevor's Descent. Trevor Morrison sat enthroned in his opulent office, a king watching his kingdom crumble across a wall of gleaming screens. Every news channel, every digital whisper screamed the grotesque details of his downfall, a murder plot, a tapestry of corruption, years of meticulously crafted crimes unraveling in mere hours. "Sir!" His secretary's voice, thin and trembling, filtered through the intercom. "The board of directors demands an emergency meeting." Trevor dismissed her with a wave, his fingers dancing a frantic ballet across his phone screen, desperate to access his offshore accounts. Each attempt was met with the same cold, unyielding response: access denied. "Mr. Morrison," a security guard's imposing figure materialized in his doorway. "The police are here. They have a warrant." Trevor's mask of impenetrable confidence finally shattered. His hands, usually so steady, now trembled as he reached for the crystal decanter on his desk, pouring himself a generous 3 fingers of amber liquid. "Tell them I'll be out in a moment." His voice, typically smooth as silk, was now a rasp, raw and unfamiliar. His phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number burned on the display. How does it feel to watch it all burn? The police stormed in before he could reply. Detective Sarah Shan, a grizzled veteran of the white-collar crime division, led the charge. "Trevor Morrison," she declared, her voice a steel blade, "you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, fraud, and numerous other crimes we are still cataloging." "This is ridiculous," Trevor scoffed, attempting to conjure his usual disarming charm. "There's been a misunderstanding." "Save it for your lawyer," Sarachan cut him off, her gaze unwavering. "We have your hired killers in custody, singing like canaries, plus hours of video evidence you so kindly broadcast to the entire city." As he was led away in handcuffs, Trevor watched his own employees, a sea of faces illuminated by the glow of their phones, recording his ignominy. The same people who, only hours before, had groveled at his feet, now openly smirked at his humiliation. In the cold, sterile holding cell, the full, crushing weight of his destruction began to settle upon Trevor. His family's lawyer, a man whose presence usually brought comfort, made a brief, chilling visit, only to deliver a stark message. The Morrison dynasty was disavowing him. "Your father wants you to know that your trust fund has been frozen," the lawyer stated, his voice devoid of warmth. "The family will not be posting bail." "He can't do that!" Trevor sprang to his feet, a desperate, cornered animal. "That money is mine." "Actually, he can. The trust has a morality clause. You have spectacularly violated it." Left alone, Trevor paced the cramped confines of his cell. His calls went unanswered. Business partners, fair weather friends, even Eleanor, all ignored his frantic pleas. A guard appeared with fresh news. "Your accounts have been flagged for investigation. The feds are on the case now." Trevor collapsed onto the unforgiving bench. His mind raced, replaying the catastrophic chain of events that had led him to this desolate place. A simple plan to eliminate Eleanor's husband had somehow triggered an avalanche that buried him alive. His court appearance the following day only deepened his despair. The prosecutor presented a crushing case. Not only the murder conspiracy, but years of fraudulent dealings, bribes, and rampant corruption laid bare for all to see. "Your Honor," the prosecutor thundered, "we have irrefutable evidence that Mr. Morrison was involved in several criminal enterprises. The attempted assassination of Thomas Baker was merely the latest in a long, sordid line of offenses." Trevor's exorbitantly paid lawyer squirmed uncomfortably. "My client maintains his innocence." "Save it," the judge interrupted, his voice laced with disdain. "Bail is denied. Mr. Morrison will remain in custody until trial." Back in his cell, Trevor received a parade of new visitors. FBI agents, their questions digging deeper into his shadowy business dealings. Each interview unearthed fresh accusations, new crimes he had believed buried forever. "Someone has been feeding us information for months," one agent remarked casually, "building quite the compelling case against you." A chilling realization flashed through Trevor's mind. Baker, the quiet contractor who had impossibly orchestrated his utter ruin. How had he missed it? How could he have underestimated him so profoundly? His family's ultimate response came through his lawyer, a complete, unequivocal severing of all ties. The Morrison name, painstakingly built over generations, could not withstand this scandal. "Your father asked me to deliver this personally," the lawyer said, sliding a letter through the bars. Trevor read it, his hands trembling violently. "You have brought shame upon our family. Your actions have destroyed not only yourself, but jeopardized everything we built. You are no longer a Morrison. Do not contact us again." In his cell that night, Trevor finally shattered. The realization struck him with the force of a physical blow. He had lost everything. His wealth, his status, his very name, all gone. And somewhere out there, Thomas Baker watched it all unfold precisely as he had planned. Chapter 8. Eleanor's Unraveling. Eleanor Baker stood amidst the meager furnishings of her new apartment, a stark, brutal contrast to the lavish home she had once shared with Tom. The walls were thin, the furniture cheap, the neighborhood steeped in a pervasive sense of despair. Her designer clothes and expensive tastes felt absurd, a grotesque parody of her former life. Her phone, once a constant symphony of buzzing calls and messages from eager clients, now lay silent. The rare instances it did ring, it brought only more agonizing news. Another client severing ties, another friend turning their back, another bill she couldn't possibly pay. She checked her bank accounts with a frantic, desperate intensity, watching her once considerable savings dwindle into nothingness. Her real estate license had been suspended, pending investigation. No reputable agency would ever touch her now. "You've truly made a mess of things," her lawyer told her, his voice devoid of sympathy. "The evidence against you is overwhelming. You're facing serious time if you don't cooperate." Eleanor paced the confines of her small living room, the memory of the video that had shattered her life playing on an endless loop, her own voice coolly plotting Tom's murder, rehearsing the role of the grieving widow. The footage had gone viral, replicated, and shared thousands upon thousands of times. Her face, once gracing glamorous real estate advertisements, now stared out from news reports of betrayal and attempted murder. A sharp knock on the door made her jump. She opened it to find a well-dressed man she didn't recognize, his smile unnervingly polite. "Mrs. Baker," he began, "I'm here about your assets." "My assets?" she stammered, a cold dread coiling in her stomach. "Yes, the forensic accountants have a few questions regarding certain transactions between yourself and Mr. Morrison." Eleanor's stomach clenched. They were digging into everything now, unraveling the intricate web of deception she had helped Trevor weave. "I don't know anything about that." She attempted to close the door, a desperate, futile gesture. "Mrs. Baker," his foot firmly blocked the doorway. "Cooperation now might mitigate your situation later." She let him in, listening in a daze as he meticulously detailed the mounting evidence against her. Money laundering, fraud, conspiracy. The accusations piled up, each one a stone added to the suffocating weight on her chest. After he left, Eleanor collapsed onto her threadbare sofa. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. "How do you like the view from the bottom?" She hurled the phone across the room, but the truth followed it. She had done this to herself. Her greed, her ambition, her monstrous betrayal of a good man had led her to this desolate end. The next day brought fresh humiliation. At the grocery store, a former client pointed her out, a venomous whisper echoing through the aisles. "Isn't that the woman who tried to murder her husband?" The hushed condemnation followed her, a cruel, relentless shadow. Eleanor abandoned her shopping cart, fleeing to her car. She sat there, tears streaming down her face, the stark image of Tom's quiet strength, his unwavering devotion, his simple happiness she had so callously discarded, searing into her mind. A rap on her car window startled her. A man stood there, his features familiar yet subtly altered, a disquieting strangeness in his gaze. "Hello, Eleanor," he said. She cautiously lowered the window. "Do I know you?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "You could say that." He smiled, and something in that expression sent a shiver of ice through her veins. Slowly, agonizingly, recognition dawned. Tom? But it wasn't quite Tom. His appearance was changed, his demeanor different, a subtle shift in his aura. He extended an envelope to her. "What is this?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your future." He turned to leave, then paused. "I know, and you will see." Inside the envelope, Eleanor found documents detailing every single crime she had committed with Trevor, every fraudulent deal, every heinous betrayal. At the bottom was a note: "Justice comes in many forms." She read the stark account of her own destruction, the cold, hard truth finally sinking in. Tom wasn't merely a simple contractor. He was something far, far more dangerous, and she had been foolish enough to betray him. Chapter 9. A New Dawn. Far from the clutches of his past life, Tom sat in his workshop, meticulously restoring an antique table. Buster dozed peacefully beside him, his fur now streaked with silver, a picture of contented ease. This small town was perfect for them both, quiet, unassuming, infinitely distant from the chaos they had left in their wake. Tom's phone vibrated. Mateo's message brought the latest news. Trevor's trial was progressing, the evidence against him unassailable. Eleanor had cut a deal, trading information for a lenient sentence. The Morrison family empire was collapsing, investigators tearing through decades of corruption like a surgeon lancing a festering wound. Tom set down his tools, stroked Buster's head, and walked into his kitchen. His new home was simple, yet cozy, purchased with Trevor's own money, an ironic twist of fate that Tom savored. A soft knock at the door. It was his neighbor, Sarah, a pie in her hands. "Thought you might like some company for dinner," she offered. Tom accepted the pie with a genuine smile. "Thank you. Would you like to stay?" They spoke of ordinary things, the weather, local gossip, his burgeoning furniture restoration business. Sarah knew him only as James Wilson, a quiet widower who had moved to town seeking solace. After she left, Tom sat on his porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon. His phone vibrated again, another update from Mateo. Eleanor had received a sentence of 15 years. Trevor faced an even longer incarceration. "Good boy," Tom murmured, scratching Buster behind the ears. "We did what we had to do." He thought of his new life, the tranquility he had found, the simple joys he had rediscovered. The betrayal had changed him, hardened him, but it hadn't broken him. In his study, hidden within a secret safe, lay the tangible evidence of his past: photographs, documents, recordings, insurance against any future threats. Tom had learned a bitter lesson about trust, about the relentless need for vigilance, but he had also learned a profound lesson about justice, about the deep satisfaction of meticulously planned retribution. Eleanor and Trevor had seen him as weak, as naive. Too late they had realized who he truly was, a predator cunningly disguised as prey. Tom poured himself a measure of whiskey, the faces of Eleanor finally recognizing him, And Trevor, watching his empire crumble, flashing in his mind. He felt no regret, no remorse. They had made their choices, and he had ensured they paid the ultimate price. His new neighbors saw a friendly craftsman, a man who kept to himself. They didn't need to know about the cached weapons in his basement, the surveillance system in his attic, the escape plans ready to activate at a moment's notice. Some habits cannot be broken, some lessons cannot be forgotten. As night deepened, Tom checked his security systems, a ritual from a past life that still brought a peculiar sense of comfort. All was quiet, all was secure. In his new town, under his new name, he had found a different kind of peace. Not the peace of ignorance he had once known, but the peace of a warrior who is always ready, who knows his own strength. The peace of a man who had faced betrayal and emerged stronger, who had turned his enemies' plans against them and orchestrated their destruction. Buster stirred in his sleep, and Tom smiled. They had survived, adapted, moved on. But they hadn't forgotten. Never forgotten. Epilogue. 5 years later. Tom, now known to the residents of Cedar Grove, Montana as James Wilson, stood in his expanded workshop. What began as a modest furniture restoration business had blossomed into a respected establishment, employing 3 skilled individuals and boasting a long list of clients eager for his craftsmanship. His hands moved with a practiced ease over an antique dresser, while his thoughts drifted to the past. On the wall hung Buster's old collar, a poignant reminder of his loyal companion who had passed 2 years prior. Beside it, a newspaper clipping, "The Morrison Empire Crumbles, Final Assets Confiscated." The article brought a cold, satisfied smile to his lips. Trevor Morrison had received a sentence of 30 years without the possibility of parole. His desperate attempt to bargain for a lighter sentence had backfired spectacularly, as Tom, with a few carefully planted pieces of evidence, had exposed even more of his crimes. Tom's secured phone vibrated. The weekly update from Mateo. "Trevor's last appeal denied," the message read. "Eleanor is up for parole next month, but the board has already decided to deny it. Thought you'd be interested." Tom sent a brief acknowledgement. Eleanor had served 5 years of her 15-year sentence. The parole denial would hit her hard, another small payment for her unforgivable betrayal. The bell above his workshop door chimed as Sarah entered, carrying their usual lunch. Their friendship had deepened over the years, though Tom maintained carefully constructed boundaries. She knew him only as James, the widowed craftsman with a talent for restoration and a fondness for quiet solitude. "Brought your favorite," she said, placing 2 containers of homemade stew on the table. "How's the Anderson piece coming along?" Tom wiped his hands. "Almost done. Just need to fix the inlay." They ate in comfortable silence, discussing town affairs and upcoming projects. Sarah managed the local real estate agency, an irony that still amused Tom. Unlike Eleanor, Sarah's success was a testament to genuine skill and honest dealings. "Did you see the news about that corruption case?" Sarah asked between bites. "The one from your old city?" Tom nodded vaguely. The Morrison case still occasionally made headlines, especially as new evidence of their criminal activities surfaced. "It's hard to believe people can be so cruel," Sarah continued. "To plot a murder for insurance, it's inhuman." "Some people get what they deserve," Tom replied quietly. After lunch, Tom checked his security systems, another habit he never abandoned. His new home was a fortress disguised as a modest ranch house, with escape routes, hidden caches of weaponry, and surveillance systems that would have impressed his old handlers at the CIA. His laptop held encrypted files, tracking key players from his past. Trevor Morrison. Still in federal prison, numerous appeals denied, family fortune gone, name disgraced. Recent prison reports indicated he had aged dramatically, his once famous charm replaced by a bitter, impotent rage. Eleanor Baker, inmate number 24789, 5th year of 15, numerous disciplinary infractions, psychiatric evaluations noted severe depression and paranoid tendencies, still obsessed with identifying the man who visited her before her arrest. Marcus, the former hitman, serving 20 years after testifying against the others. His testimony had helped bury Trevor even deeper, just as Tom had planned. Dave and Tony, the other hitmen, 12 years each, both model prisoners hoping for early release. They still had nightmares about the house that became a trap. The Morrison family, reduced to middle-class status after the scandal, they salvaged some wealth but lost their social standing. Tom's carefully planted evidence had implicated several family members in Trevor's crimes. Mateo, thriving. Tom's share of Trevor's hidden accounts had secured them both. Now a tech expert, he ran a legitimate cybersecurity firm, though he retained the skills and contacts that had helped bring down the Morrisons. On Tom's secure screen, a notification flashed. Eleanor had attempted to access her old email accounts. Even in prison, she still sought answers, trying to understand how her simple husband had orchestrated her undoing. Tom opened a hidden folder containing prison photographs. Eleanor's designer clothes and perfect makeup were replaced by prison fatigues and hollowed eyes. Her recent photos showed a woman haunted by her choices, broken by consequences she never foresaw. His phone vibrated again, another update. His remaining CIA contacts occasionally fed him intelligence on potential threats. Old habits died hard, and Tom preferred to be informed. Former Morrison associate asking questions about Thomas Baker. Want us to handle it? Tom considered the offer. Send me the details. I'll take care of it. The past had a way of rippling into the present. Tom had learned to watch for those ripples, to deal with them before they became waves. Later that evening, Tom drove home to his ranch on the outskirts of town. The isolation of the property suited him. Clear lines of sight, no unexpected approaches. His security system reported all clear. As he stepped inside, Sarah's car was already in the driveway. She often came for dinner, bringing a warmth to his meticulously maintained solitude. Tonight, she was preparing his kitchen for a cooking lesson she had insisted upon. "You can't live on diner food forever," she had teased, handing him an apron. Tom allowed himself to enjoy the moment, all the while maintaining his internal vigilance. Sarah was good company, honest and straightforward. But he had learned his lesson about trust. His heart remained guarded, his true nature concealed. As they cooked, Tom's secured phone displayed another update. Eleanor was in the prison infirmary again. Her latest breakdown involved claims that her former husband was a government assassin. "No one believes her," Mateo noted in the message. "Staff thinks she's hallucinating." The perfect cover. Tom served the meal they had prepared, listening to Sarah's stories of her day. She was everything Eleanor was not, genuine, content with simple joys, honest to the core. "You're quiet tonight," she observed, gently touching his arm. "Just thinking about an old project," he replied. After Sarah left, Tom performed a final check of his surveillance systems. His laptop displayed yet another news update. Trevor Morrison had been found unconscious in his cell. Another failed attempt to end his suffering. Tom closed the laptop, poured himself a whiskey. Ice clinked against glass as he stepped onto the back porch. The Montana night stretched before him, peaceful and vast. He had chosen this place carefully, close enough to civilization for his business, far enough for safety. The town accepted him as a quiet craftsman who found solace in working with his hands. Only he knew about the weapon room behind his wine cellar, the escape vehicles hidden in plain sight, the multitude of identities and accounts ready for immediate evacuation. A meteor streaked across the sky. Tom recalled Eleanor's obsession with luxury, her desperate yearning for status. Now she slept on a prison cot, her dreams of wealth replaced by nightmares of exposure and collapse. Trevor Morrison, who had once commanded boardrooms and bent politicians to his will, now shuffled through prison corridors in shackles. His family name was Mud, his empire shattered, his arrogance reduced to impotent rage. Their hired thugs, Marcus, Dave, and Tony, had learned too late that they had picked the wrong target. Their prison sentences were the price for underestimating the quiet man with hidden depths. Tom's phone vibrated one last time for the night, a message from his CIA contact. "Handled that loose end. Former Morrison associate won't be asking questions anymore." He sent a grateful reply, then deleted the exchange. The past sometimes still required managing, threads that needed to be cut before they tangled. In his study, Tom opened a hidden safe. Among the documents and evidence lay a single photograph, himself in his naval dress uniform, receiving an award. He couldn't discuss it. The man in that photo knew who he was and had never needed expensive suits or social status to prove his worth. Eleanor and Trevor had seen him as a simple contractor, easy prey for their schemes. They had learned too late that appearances could be deceiving, that true strength often lay hidden in unassuming packaging. Sarah's cooking lesson had left dirty dishes in his sink. Tom washed them with the same focused attention he applied to everything, meticulously, deliberately until finished. The mundane task reminded him of that final night in his old home when he had washed dishes while Eleanor plotted his death. His new life suited him. The furniture restoration business allowed him to work with his hands, to create, not destroy. The relationship with Sarah offered companionship without vulnerability. The town provided community without compromising his solitude. But beneath the surface, he remained the predator who had turned the hunters into the hunted. His home security systems, the weapons hidden throughout, the regularly updated escape plans, all were testament to lessons learned and wisdom gained. Tomorrow he would open his workshop, return beautiful pieces to their former glory, have lunch with Sarah, and play his part as James Wilson, the respected craftsman. He would check his feeds, monitor potential threats, maintain the vigilance that had kept him alive through wars and betrayals. The simple life he had once sought was a fantasy, naive and dangerous. This life, aware, prepared, protected, was real. He had found his peace not in ignorance but in strength, not in trust but in control. In their cells, Eleanor and Trevor still awoke to nightmares, haunted by the quiet man who had destroyed them so utterly. They would never understand that their betrayal had freed him, burned away his illusions, and brought him back to his true nature. Tom finished his whiskey. The ice long melted. In the distance, coyotes howled, predators announcing their presence to the night. He smiled, feeling a kinship with them. Some men wore expensive suits and spoke of power. Others remained quiet, watched, and waited for the opportune moment to strike. Eleanor had once accused him of being boring, predictable. Trevor had dismissed him as unremarkable, unworthy of notice. They had learned the price of such assumptions. Their prison sentences were only part of their punishment. The true torture lay in the knowledge that somewhere the man they had betrayed lived freely, successfully, and utterly beyond their reach. Tom locked up for the night, his routine precise and thorough. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats to monitor, new opportunities to safeguard his peace. He was ready, as he always was. After all, he had gained more than revenge. He had reclaimed himself, shed the illusions of his false contentment, embraced the warrior he had tried to deny. Eleanor's betrayal had, in essence, been a gift, a harsh awakening that had returned him to his true power. Let Trevor rage in his cell. Let Eleanor fruitlessly search for answers. Let the world believe Thomas Baker had vanished without a trace. Here in Montana, James Wilson lived his meticulously constructed life, aware and prepared, at peace with his strength and his solitude. The last light flickered out in his home. In the darkness, the predator rested, vigilant even in repose, content in the knowledge that justice had been served and lessons had been learned. Some debts can never be repaid. Some betrayals can never be forgiven. Some men can never be underestimated again. Ladies and gentlemen, since you've listened to the end of this story, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which state you're watching from. Let's see what percentage of elite viewers make it to the end. And please kindly turn your attention to the screen after this message. There you'll find a full playlist of thrilling stories, a subscribe button for the channel, and our most captivating story. Click, enjoy, and thank you.